Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin this one, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you do enjoy my content, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Also make sure you're subscribed to the channel. So with that being said, I've spent 48 hours with the brand new Moto G Power. And I do have to say that I've really enjoyed using this phone for the most part. It's not perfect, but it's a really good phone. It has its flaws. So let's go ahead and have a conversation about this phone now that I've spent 48 hours with it. So the 2025 Moto G Power is definitely a more refined version from the previous generation. This time around, the vegan leather material that Motorola has been using on their phones for now the second year in a row wraps all around the camera housing instead of that junky camera design that they had on the 2024 Moto G Power's design. But basically what that essentially means is that, again, the same material, it feels really good in the hand. Some people are complaining, hey, this is fake leather, this is that. I get it, it's fake leather, but it still is pretty good quality material when it comes to actually holding the phone in the hand. Now, the right hand side has kind of a weird vibe to it, so it does have your power button, fingerprint sensor, volume up and down, which is standard, but you also get a microphone, which I don't really think I've ever seen that on a phone before, so the sides itself has a microphone. If this has to do with like the audio quality from the video capability of this phone, cool, but I feel like this is easily blockable. Now the bottom of the phone does have the essential ports, so you have your USB-C that's capable of 30 watt of fast charging. This phone also supports wireless charging up to 15 watts. You also have a microphone on the bottom. You still retain a 3.5mm headphone jack and a bottom facing speaker, but this phone does have stereo speakers and I'll let you guys listen to them later on. So you also do have the triple camera setup if you consider the ambient light sensor as a camera, but basically it wraps beautifully around the phone itself. In addition to all that, this phone is IP68 water and dust resistant. So definitely you gotta give Motorola props for adding that certification into essentially a $299 phone. Now I want to save the price point of this phone for later on in the video because I do have a couple of points I want to bring up. But with that being said, I mean that's essentially the whole story behind the design. Which brings me to my next point, and that is the display of this phone. So this year we do get a larger device. I feel like this is the theme for this year. A lot of these manufacturers are just increasing the size of their phones. Smaller bezels, larger display. So it's a 6.8-inch display, 1080p panel, full HD. It is an IPS panel, so no OLED here. I'm sure that we're going to see an OLED technology in the upcoming Moto G Stylus 5G. But you also get 120 Hz of high refresh rate that you can go ahead and mess around with that in the settings. Essentially, this is a solid display for $299. You get, again, the essentials. You get a full HD display that is capable of giving you a really solid experience when it comes to going through your social media, browsing the web, watching videos, anything that would essentially require you to use the phone, and you can definitely enjoy the display. And the speaker quality on here is also really good, so the stereo speaker effect is really nice. It's noticeably better than the previous generation. Sure to subscribe and also leave a thumbs up. A lot of great content is coming really soon. So with that being said, one of the first things that I want to speak on when it comes to the 2025 Moto G 5G is this design, which is basically the same design from the previous generation with slight tweaks here and there. So basically the same vegan leather material that they used last year. It still feels good in the hand. So I want to speak on the camera experience of the 2025 Moto G Power. Essentially what you get here is a triple camera setup with your main sensor being a 50 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization. You also get an 8 megapixel ultra wide as well as an ambient light sensor. And essentially it's the same experience that you would get with any Motorola phone in the camera app. One of the things that I found interesting about this is that when switching between your main sensor and your ultra wide, it's fairly quick. When taking pictures, it's also fairly quick. However, when actually recording video and stopping the video, it lags quite a bit, more than I would like. So basically starting the video, it lags ever so slightly. And even when you pause the video, it even lags. So that could be fixed with a software update. I just want to bring it up. And you cannot switch between your main sensor and your ultra wide while recording a video, but essentially the image quality of this phone is not as good as I was hoping for. So a lot of the pictures that this phone takes is underexposed and they do lack color. Even when it's in HDR mode, the colors are dull, they're not vibrant, they're not explosive. The video quality of this phone is decent. The optical image stabilization does its job fairly well, but I was hoping for a better camera system for $299. Unfortunately, we get sort of a basic camera setup, so it's nothing crazy. It's nothing that will essentially wow you or make you go out and buy this phone. So the camera, it's all right. That's all I have to say about that. Now, if I want to switch the conversation and talk a little bit more about the performance. So this phone has the same chipset as the 2025 Moto G, which is the MediaTek Dimensity 6300 processor. And it is an octa-core chip. It also does have 5000 milliamp hour battery, 8 gigabytes of RAM that is upgradable to up to 24 gigabytes of RAM using RAM Boost. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And you have the ability to charge your phone to 30 watts of wire charging. And this phone also brings in the same feature from last year's Moto G Power, which I really liked, and that is the ability to charge your phone wirelessly on sort of a budget smartphone. Really nice for Motorola to keep that going this year. So it does charge up to 15 watts of wireless charging, which is fairly quick for a phone at this price point. But circling back real quick, as far as the performance itself, on the daily tasks, this phone performs fine. It is underwhelming. The processor is not all that crazy good, but for the daily tasks, it's fine, it's okay. It opens up your basic apps like your phone app, your messaging app. If you want to browse the web, that's also something that you're not going to have too much trouble with. Is it going to glitch from time to time? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It happened to me a couple of times where it just crashed, but it wasn't nothing that was outrageous or nothing that was crazy. So your daily tasks is fine. The RAM on here standard is 8 gigabytes, which is crazy by itself. So 8 gigabytes of RAM is plenty for this phone. To add to that, you have the ability to boost up your RAM by using RAM Boost, which is basically in the settings. So you can look it up. If you go to your storage, you do have 128 gigabyte of storage. So it will use that storage to basically upgrade your RAM from 8 gigs to up to 24 gigabytes, which is ridiculous. Now, in synthetic benchmarks, this phone performed the same benchmark scores as the Moto G Power because essentially they are using the same processor. So the performance in the synthetic benchmarks was pretty much the same. Now, I do have to say that the 24 gigabytes of RAM sounds really nice, but giving the processor speed, I feel like it's not all that overwhelming. It's actually a little bit underwhelming, so it's not that good in the performance department strictly because of the processor that this phone is using. However, playing games on this phone, lighter titles, would work really fine. I didn't really have too much issues with it, but moving on to heavier titles, that's when you're going to start experiencing issues. And essentially that's the story behind the performance. Now, if I were to round up this phone in a conclusion, I would say that this is a really good start for Motorola. I feel like this is what the Moto G 5G should have been though. Instead of $299, I would bring down the price of this phone, which I know they will. It's just a matter of time at this point. But if this phone was priced between $199 to $249, no brainer, easily recommended. But the $299 price point is a little bit too steep just because there are a lot of the competition is so crazy right now that you can get better phones for a similar price point. With that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the 2025 Moto G Power. Leave them in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, leave a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more content. A lot of videos are coming really soon.